When I bought my new motorcycle, I found out the rear license plate light was broken and the rear wheel wasn't aligned. I found that out after I rode 45 minutes home.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Safety Tip Friday.
Hello everyone, Ron here with Southwest Colorado Adventures with a pre-ride safety tip for you. So you have a new bike, or new to you bike. What should you do before you hop on and ride? Or more importantly, what should you do before you buy it, especially if it's a pre-owned motorcycle? Most people don't really even ask that question. I know I didn't when I was 18 years old and I bought my first motorcycle. I have since come to understand that just because a motorcycle or a car drives down the road doesn't make it safe. So that begs the question, what do you do before you ride the motorcycle? Many of y'all are probably familiar already with the T-Clock safety checklist, especially if you get your motorcycle license through the MSF driver course, Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Today we're going to walk through that checklist. I'm going to add the link down on the bottom. It's a free checklist. You can download it, print it out. I've got several of them printed out that I'm going to use every time before I go ride. It's an acronym, obviously, and T stands for tires. C stands for controls. L stands for lighting and electrical. O stands for oil and other liquids. C stands for chassis. And S stands for stands. So I'm going to walk through what this checklist actually looks like on my motorcycle today. And as always, if you value this content, please slap a like on it. Consider subscribing to my channel. I love having you along. Okay, so here is the checklist. The first thing we're going to check is the tires. Okay, so just run around, check, make sure there's not any bulges, anything that's not seated on the tires. I mean, I've still got knobbies on the outside because this thing is still pretty new. But everything looks pretty good here. We're going to check the tire pressure. The tire pressure right now is set at 27. The recommendation for the Himalayan is 25 on the front, 32 in the rear. All right, let's take a look at the rear tire. Same thing, still got knobbies on it. Just means I haven't ridden it enough. Yeah, everything looks pretty good here. Let's check the pressure back here, see what we've got. Set to 32 in the back, so I'm going to go ahead and take 2 off the front, just because when I ride, even though I'll be laden, I'm going to be going off-road, so those two counteract each other. All right, we're going to go ahead and check this, make sure there's no dents and dings. So we're going to hit. So we want these to have a ringing sound to them. The spokes, if they sound dull, that means that they are not tight. Okay, those are good. We're looking for any dents in the wheel. Everything looks good there. We're supposed to run the wheel with a fixed object to see if there's any bulges that are 5 millimeters or greater in the rim. Everything on this side seems to be good. And we're going to check the same on the back, checking for any dents, spokes. Everything looks good there. Okay. Spokes good. Now if you have cast wheels on them, you're obviously looking for cracks and dents in the castings. I've got spokes, so that's why I was checking the spokes. We're going to grab the wheel from both ends and just shake it in a couple of different locations. We're checking the wheel bearings. We're checking to make sure there's not any excessive lube coming out of there. Bearings feel good on that. Same for the front. We're also supposed to check and make sure that the brakes, that both the front brake and the rear brake alone will stop the bike completely. And the front brake works and the rear brake works. All right, next we're gonna go to the handlebars. Do they look bent? Well, they're brand new since I already bent the first set. So I think they actually look pretty good, pretty straight. No issues there. Do they turn? Yes, they do. All the way. Are the hand grips and bar ends secure? Well, the bar ends, I already broke those off. I got more coming. So anyway, those are good to go. Everything's working there. Are the levers and pedals broken? No, they're good. They're good. No cracks. Even down here, the brake pedal is good. Shifter lever is good. No issues there. I just put it in first gear. Are the pivots lubricated? Having almost 400 miles on this bike, yes, everything's lubricated fine. They're pulling easily, no binding. How do the ends look on the cables? Cable ends there, no fraying, all good. And down here, whoa, look at that. clutch cable, the retainer bolt there has come loose. I need to cinch that down, but no frays. Are there any cracks, bulging, fraying on any of the tubes? Well, to my knowledge, there's only the oil cooler tube here, and everything looks really good on that. The last thing on the control section is just to make sure that when we're turning it, there's no binding in any of the cables or anything. Now, I did put spacers on my handlebars, and anytime you do that, you have the potential of cinching down those cables. So it is a good thing to check, especially after something like that. Everything looks to operate properly, so I think we're good to go there. All right, so now we're moving on to the L section for lights and electrical. We're gonna go ahead and pull off the seat and check the battery. And everything looks good there. There's no corrosion on the battery. Got the positive over on this side, a little harder to get to, but yep, nice and shiny and clean. Even though the rest of the bike is not perfectly clean, at least that still looks pretty good. Next is headlight condition. It's on, it's pointing where I want it to point, which is good on all of my junk over there. Highs and low beams. Everything working there. Now that it's turned off, you can see there's no cracks or breaks or anything right there. Taillight condition is in good order. Still, again, very new. It's actually loose. Look at that. So I'll take off the rear pillion and reach through there and cinch those bolts up. So it's a good thing to do this check. I wouldn't want that to wobble off. I did just put the Himalayan rack on not too long ago, and I had to relocate a lot of this stuff and change some of the brackets in there. So it's a good thing to check. Go ahead and cinch those bolts down while I'm thinking about it, because I will probably forget later. So if you go just up under here, there they are. But as we wobble, I see that this is actually the bolt that's loose. So I'm going to go ahead and cinch that guy down. Again, good catch. I just put the rack and everything on just this last week and haven't ridden since then, so I didn't check everything. So I hope that this drives the point home, the few things that I've found about how important it really is just to go through the motions and do the checks, because we found a few things, my tire pressure, my tail light that was just shaking in the breeze, and I just remounted that. Goodness, you can tell I don't pre-plan this to make it look like I know everything. All right, we're gonna turn on the turn signals, make sure that they are operating properly. Left turn signal, there it is up front. And there it is in back. Heck of a deal. While we're here, let's go ahead and check the brake light. And good to know it comes on. So now we're going to come over here and turn on the right side. Oh, front turn signal. Ha, there isn't one. When I wrecked on the snow, it's busted and I've got them on order. Should be here any day. And then the rear right is working, even though it's flashing quick because the other one's not attached. Now we're supposed to make sure all the switches work properly. So the Fuel X Pro flashed. That means that works. And got it turned on. That's a good sign. The fuel injection is engaging, and let's just make sure it starts. And it does. Oh, but it needs some juice because it's been cold. There we go. Working good. All right. So I don't die, I'm gonna not leave that running. Are the mirrors clean? Basically, water spots there. Are they secure? Are there any cracks? No, everything's good. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Everything good on this side. Good to go, nice and secure. Supposed to check all of the wiring harnesses and everything, all the connectors that we can see. There is a bunch of them. Most of them are up underneath the tank and up under the seat. There's a chunk of connectors right there for the Fuel X Pro. There's the big harness there. There's a bunch of wiring harnesses all over the place, honestly. Up underneath here, there's a boot right there. Goes over, not sure what that is. Maybe the solenoid. Yeah, everything looks good. So don't forget, another thing that we found that was a problem was this little retainer nut on the clutch cable, and the clutch cable looks good. So the next thing we go to is O for oil and liquids. I've got heaters all over the place out here because it's about 30 degrees outside. Here is the oil sight. We've got oil there. Our reservoir, let's see if I can get to where you can see that, is good to go. And our oil reservoir right there, even though it's got the guard on it, I can see the amber fluid inside there and it's full as well. Are there any leaks? And there are no other leaks down there. And that actually, look at that. The oil cooler line actually has oil on it. So that's a problem. I'm going to take that into Royal Enfield and figure out what's going on there. See if you can see down here what I'm talking about. Right around the base of this. And what's interesting, this is where it goes up to the oil cooler. And there's a little bit of oil collected around that. It hasn't been enough to leak out on the ground, but it's still there nonetheless. Okay, that concludes the O section for the oil and liquids. Now we're going to go to the C section for chassis. And you can tell I'm not a genius. I'm just going right down the list. And we found things. Now we're supposed to look at the chassis, just make sure like all the places where everything mounts and connects, that there's no paint lifting, that there's no dents or anything like that. But if the paint is coming up, it's probably because the metal was bent, which could be a problem. Just doing a quick inspection here. Let's see all those points up underneath there, where all the pivot points are. Frame, don't see any issues. Steering head bearings, again, we've already checked it, but it's smooth through there. Whenever I shake it, there is no slack whatsoever. So those are good. Okay, lift the rear wheel. Let's see if there's any play in the swing arm. And no, there is not. Okay, for the chain, 20 to 30 millimeters worth of play there. That's about where we're at. Looking at the teeth on the sprocket to make sure that they're not hooked because they're wearing incorrectly or worn out. Everything looks good there. Make sure the chain is lubed. Lube and clean it. I probably do need to go ahead and clean it. That is the C for the chassis section, and that just about covers it. So the last thing we're going to check is the stand, the side stand. Does it extend all the way? Lock into position? Yes, it does. That's good. Does it pop up and stay locked into position? So when I'm riding along, it doesn't flop in the breeze and stay down. Yeah, everything looks good there. Center stand, is there any cracks? It's obviously holding. We've got the bike on it right now. So, does it stay up? Yeah, it's pretty sturdy. So we're not gonna have any issues there. Okay, so we've basically completed the checklist. Now some of you may be out there saying that is a heck of a lot to do just before you ride. Now keep in mind, this is the first time that I've actually gone through this checklist myself. So I'm sure as I go through it more and more, I'll get a lot faster at knowing what to look for. But it definitely beats having a breakdown on the trail or on the side of the road, or heaven forbid, a wreck due to improper maintenance and just not paying attention. My tail light was coming off. That probably wouldn't cause a wreck, but it'd be dangling, hanging in the breeze. That would be pretty darn annoying. So what are some of the other things that we found? Well, let me take a look at my list. The front tire pressure was 2 pounds too much. Tail light we already talked about. That was loose. The bracket was loose up under the pillion seat. Got that cinched down. The clutch cable bolt retainer was loose, meaning that the front part could easily just continue to jiggle one way or another because it doesn't have those two cinched together to keep the clutch adjusted properly. And we found out that at the bottom of my oil cooler line, I've got oil. I don't like that. So that is going to require further investigation. Now keep in mind, I am not a mechanic. All I'm doing is walking you through this checklist. If there's issues that you can't fix on your own, the first thing you need to do is take it to a qualified, certified mechanic, have them take a look at it and help you out. Some of the answers are probably in the owner's manual. If you have a shop manual, some of them will be in that. This depends on your own personal skill level. For me, some things, while it's under warranty, especially like the oil, I'm going to take that to the dealership and let them help me out with that. Again, if you found value in anything that we've gone through here, please slap a like on this video. Consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to have more of this coming. Summer is just around the corner, and that's when it's going to be on. The goal of adventure riding, in my opinion, is volume. You don't want to just go out in a blaze of glory and not come back. So proper maintenance, taking the time to make sure that everything is squared away on the front side, is the least that we can do. We owe it to our families, if nothing else. Don't forget, When I got my new motorcycle, this guy right here, when I got home, that's when I realized that the rear light for the license plate was broken. I got it fixed. I had to glue it back into position. And also the alignment was out on my rear wheel. Things you don't think about. It's always good to check. And then the things that we found today. If you're curious what all my thoughts are on the Himalayan, I'm going to link the full review that I did for it up top if you want to check that out. Or YouTube is going to recommend something that they think is right for just you. That's all I've got today, folks. Y'all be safe out there, and we'll see you next time.